Hello, Wake Up New Zealand, Carol Sakey speaking. So, do you think there was an electoral fraud over in the States? Do you think there was one in New Zealand at the last election? Because many people do. And I've been uncovering some information that looks very dodgy. And, you daren't say that, yeah, this is happening or has happened because Trump and those who have said it have been taken to court by Smartmatic and Dominion to the tune of billions of dollars in lawsuit. So I want to talk about Malak Brown because he's a chief director of Smartmatic, and he's a major player in this fraud, this so-called alleged fraud, polling fraud in the States. Now, The Guardian reported on the 4th of February that Smartmatic has a lawsuit as to the defendants conspiring to spread false claims that that Smartmatic helped steal the US election. Well, people still believe that. Many people do. And people even question the elections in New Zealand. So even Fox News has a lawsuit against him, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and Trump himself. And these lawsuits amount to millions of dollars, billions of dollars. So who is Malak Brown? Well, Malak Brown, Smartmatic voting system, is a key major player, influencing electoral voting systems in many countries. He is Smartmatic's board chairman, and there's more to tell about him. He was a leader on the UN Global Smart Cities, the UN Development Programme, as was Helen Clark, and they were both senior advisors and took that role in the UN and sometimes at the same time. George Soros has been accused of being involved with Smartmatic. Fact checkers say no. But strange enough, last December, Malak Brown was given a position on George Soros's philanthropist Open Societies Foundation as a director on the board, a chief director, and he's also a director on Smartmatics. So the connection is there. So Open Society Foundation was founded by George Soros, one of the most wealthiest philanthropists in the world. So a published report on the 5th of December last year confirmed that this is what had happened, that Patrick Gaspard had stood down. Malak Brown had taken the helm at George Soros's billions of dollars of philanthropy foundation. Now, who's Patrick Gaspard, you wonder? Surely he's somewhere there that's sort of connected. He can't just be anyone because he's going to work for Biden. Yes, working for Biden. So it's a social, globalist, elitist, wealthy, tight-knit connection. Very political. So it was reported on the 7th of December last year that Patrick Gaspard is departing as president of George Soros Open Societies Foundation to serve as president-elect Joe Biden's Labour secretary. So red flags going up. Join the dots. George Soros, the UN, Smartmatic, Malak Brown, Biden, Patrick Gaspard, and add Obama to that because Patrick Gaspard has also worked in the White House for Biden for several years in high positions, executive director, etc., etc., and efforts to re-elect Obama. And he was part of the team, the transition team, and national political director of Barack Obama's 2008 presidential campaign. Also involved in the Paris Peace Forum, the global agenda for multilateral gatherings for global governance issues, economic global governance, financial, those are dealt with by the World Economic Forum. So he's also connected to the World Economic Forum, and it goes on. So Malloch Brown is really in the mix there. So with all these globalist, socialist, leftist, wealthy, political elitists, that tight-knit circle, traveling in the same circles. So all these elitists traveling in the same circles with Malloch Brown's Smartmatic voting systems. And there's a stranglehold around his neck. They want to put a noose around his neck to shut him up for good, because he opposes everything that they love. Globalism, the UN, the World Economic Forum, and Trump dislikes all of them and has openly criticised them all right through his election campaigns too, and still does. So Trump is a threat to globalism. He opposes it. He opposes the UN. He opposes the World Economic Forum, the UN Security Council. The horrific crimes that the CCP has committed against innocent Chinese people, millions of them for decades, crimes against humanity, genocide, forced sterilizations, forced abortions, tortures, etc. So Malloch Brown launching into this safety net that's been provided in this philanthropist world, and being connected to the UN and the World Economic Forum, etc., he has a safety net there that cradles him with plenty of wealth and power and status to protect Smartmatic. So at a conference, Soros and Malloch Brown gave speeches, UN Agenda 21. Well, Malloch Brown, what he did, when he worked at the UN in New York, he and a group of others, small group, they got together and they worked out the Millennium Development Goals for the world, the blueprint for UN Agenda 2030, and they put that together. So the fact is, Smartmatic's director chairman Malloch Brown does have ties with George Soros, and George Soros has ties with the UN and the World Economic Forum and Biden, and they all dislike Trump. And the New York Times tried to downplay any connection with Soros and Smartmatic. So when Malloch Brown was putting together this, the MDGs for the UN Agenda 21 in this basement, he said that it was a relatively casual moment that he did that, so much so that he forgot to include a section on the environment, MDG 7 of UN Agenda 21 on environmental stability. Trump and his patriotism would have been Malloch Brown's worst political enemy. Malloch Brown's director chair of Smartmatic electoral polling systems. He obviously didn't like Trump, right along with those other global elitists. Malloch Brown also authored a book called The Unfinished Global Revolution, and it focuses on Global Development Goals, UN Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind, and it actually mentions that in his book. So he highlighted UN Agenda 21 at a summit which Helen Clark attended. Helen Clark worked for the UNDP, as did Malloch Brown, supporting the global action plans. She was one of the official administrators, as he was. In January 2018, Trump was about to head off to Davos, to the World Economic Forum, to the Davos Party for the elitist, rich, most famous, and even royalty and film stars attended. The Davos social elite and climate action plans were in mind. This is what they wanted to focus on, but Trump had other things on his mind. His theme for Davos was Make America Great Again. So all eyes were on Trump. They analysed and predicted what he was going to do. They predicted he was going to talk about Make America Great Again and how he had done so well with the economy. And they were correct, because he did just that. And he gave them a few home truths too. He severely criticised them, severely criticised the WEF Davis Party. He criticised globalism. And he continued to criticize them. He criticized them right through his election campaign. And he spoke about being patriotic to his own country, America, as it was really important to him. Christian values, Christian morals, putting his own country first. He was the last president of America that attended Davos. In 2000, the year 2000, Bill Clinton had attended Davos. So it had been 18 years since a president of America had attended Davos. So when Trump was in office, he actually gained a lot of praise, not just by white Americans, but by Hispanics, by all cultures. He had a great following. He had a lot of economic successes, but he wasn't liked amongst the Davos crowd, because German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the last time Trump came to Europe, we didn't like to hear what he had to say. And that's what she said. And she said, it's time for us to pivot our relationship perhaps away from the US towards China and Asia. So there was 2,500 attendees at this Davos meeting that Trump went to. And those included Liu He, the General Director of Chinese Communist Party, and 2 other Chinese Communist Party members. Also, actress Cate Blanchett, singer Elton John, all showing a commitment to this globalist elitist world, including Gates and Prince Albert of Monaco and His Majesty King Abdul II Al Hussein. Well, Blackstone chairman did an interview with CNBC discussing Trump's presidency, and he likened it to a tale of 2 cities, domestic and international. With the domestic Trump, he said, equaled the stock market continued to be robust in America. His regulations were very positive indicator. His markets responded well in America. All great stuff. But on the other side, he said the international Trump has shifted away from that of the world global order, then quickly shifted to president. Then this then Blackstone chairman went on to say he actually left that conversation, came back to it, and then he went on to say that President Xi Jinping's 2017 speech in Davos, saying China is potentially a greater source of stability in the world than America. He just went from one conversation about Trump to this about Xi Jinping. So back to Malloch Brown, a Smartmatic electoral voting equipment. He also spoke about Trump just before the Davos World Economic Forum that Trump was about to attend. He had an interview with CNBC, and he referred to Trump and the election, saying the world is a more dangerous place since Trump. And that's what he said, that Trump was a disruptor, had no policy depth, is reckless and unpredictable. He mentioned Trump had made progress overhauling the American tax system, but is unlikely that the division in America will end. It will remain fractured, saying he believed the clouds were gathered for Trump beyond the terms of the continued disruptive, unpredictable foreign policy. So on the 8th of October 2015, Malloch Brown went to America to hard sell internet-based balloting. Malloch Brown said, "Our election systems made some advances after the 2000 Bush-Gore debacle due to an infusion of congressional funding spurred by a voting disaster." So Smartmatic has been instrumental in designing, selling voting machines globally in over 300 countries, and modernized voting technology, named touchscreen machines and optical scanners. He supports services through these countries, 307 countries and 16 states in the US alone. This is just a fraction of Smartmatic's global catalogue. The voting machines used for Obama in 2012 was Smartmatic. So the controversy, the allegations, the informations, the disinformations, the misinformation involving Smartmatic and Dominion has made global headlines, and it still does, and it's continuing as everyone is watching the lawsuits and what's going to happen there. So the lawsuits against Trump and Fox News and Giuliani, etc. So Trump, from the very onset of electioneering to the presidency of America, has posed a massive threat to these globalist elite, the UN, the World Economic Forum, the socialists, that tight-knit community that are trying to put a noose around his neck. So there was a committee to save the world order. America's allies must step up as Americans must step down. Authored by Ivor Dardler and James M. Lindsay, December 2018. Ivor Dardler is Mark Dardler's father. Mark Dardler is a senior political reporter in Wellington, New Zealand, and he publicly speaks out and targets conservative thinking people on social media, patriots, true patriots of New Zealand. He targets them and labels them as far-right extremists, white supremacists, even if they've got coloured skin. It's insanity, and he gets away with it. He is racist. Ivor Dardler is president of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, was ambassador to NATO from 2009 to 2015. Ivor Dardler is on the Committee to Save the World Order. Dardler and Malloch Brown Here we go, Smartmatic polling machines were at an event that they did together by the Business and Sustainable Development Commission. Malak Brown delivered the speech as Deputy Secretary General of the UN. The event was a conclusion on the Brookings Project on Force and Legitimacy, as did Ivor Dardler, a global dialogue on weapons and terrorism. They both spoke about that at this meeting, and I believe it was put on by Brookings Institute. So prior to Malak Brown taking directorship for George Soros's huge philanthropist foundation, Patrick Gephardt, he held this position. So we now know that Gephardt worked for Barack Obama, filling a role for Biden, Malak Brown's chief directorship for Smartmatic. He planned the UN Agenda 21 MDGs, blueprint for UN Agenda 2030, and supplied polling equipment to over 300 countries globally. Here, Malak Brown, leader of UN Global Cities, chief advisor for the UN Development Programme, also was Helen Clark, who had a major role, as did Malak Brown did at the same time. So Malak Brown has spoken at several events with Mark Dardler's father, Ivor Dardler, but both and all I have mentioned, those globalist elite, political, etc., they're all on the opposite side of the coin to Trump. They dislike Trump. So, and Trump has shown the huge dislike of globalism that they love. Because you've got Dardler, Malak Brown, huge lovers of globalism, and they urge it. So Ivor Dardler's son, Mark Dardler, has recently received citizenship in New Zealand. Political reporter at Wellington, major player in the propaganda machine. Like his father, he loathes conservative ideology, nationalism, and patriotism. He openly publicises that he targets people like this, who has this ideology. Those that speak up publicly at rallies, on social media, anyone who opposes Ardern's narrative. He will character assassinate them. Law-abiding citizens, he doesn't care. He does anything and everything with his propaganda machine to shut those people down. Son like father. So going back to Smartmatic and Malak Brown, accused of electoral fraud by Donald Trump. But Trump's support hasn't dwindled and it's growing. And going back to Smartmatic, Malak Brown is certainly being cradled by a tight-knit, wealthy political philanthropist, globalist, elitist political group that have huge power and status and heaps of wealth. And they have connections to the UN, the World Economic Forum, and other major organizations and corporations, and wealthy philanthropists, providing a huge safety net for Malak Brown, Smartmatic. And they continue, Smartmatic continues to try and put a noose around Trump's neck, as does all those other elitists. Since day one, Trump has been severely attacked, as we all know. He doesn't sit down, he doesn't bow down, and he doesn't shut up, and he keeps on saying it as it is. When he courageously spoke out, told it as it is to 2,500 attendees at the World Economic Forum in 2008, and he stood up and told those at the UN General Assembly in New York just exactly what he thinks about all of them too. Courageous man. He stands by his beliefs. So he continues to stand up and speak up to the global populations. He's a true patriot. God protect Donald Trump. God defend New Zealand. Please, God, defend New Zealand and defend Donald Trump. He iwi tahi tātou. Let us all be one. Let us be patriotic. Put our own country's interests first. Put our own children's interests first. Our grandchildren, our children's children. Let us stand up and speak up. Please, people, more people speak up. It can be a very uncomfortable position to be in, to actually speak up. Sometimes I feel very uncomfortable, but I just have to face the fear and do it anyway. You know, hope knocks on the door and faith answers it. So get a grip of it. Acknowledge you're feeling uncomfortable around it, but just do it. Face the fear and do it anyway. Because, you know, we're talking about the most precious gift we have, and that's life itself. And it's important. The most important thing in life is to protect life itself. To protect your freedom of thought, your freedom of expression, the freedom to speak out. Because if you lose all those freedoms, you've lost your personal identity. And so have your children's children. So it's up to us to stand up, speak up. Speak up in public. So your shoulders gradually get much broader and your faith gets stronger. And hope knocks on the door and faith answers it. So what we've got is the global government is hastily dehumanising human life, as is the Ardern government. So it's putting human back into human life where it's been lost. And it's time to think about what you want for your children's children. Ask yourself that question. Ask other people that question. But who is asking the question? I don't hear anyone asking the question. So also think about this. Do you believe there was an election fraud in the States? Do you believe there was election frauds across the world? Do you think there was an election fraud in New Zealand? Very interesting to hear what people have to say about this. But please, people, think about this. Think about what is most important for your children and your children's children's future. Do you want them to be slaves to a global governance, a one script for all, where everyone, everywhere, every age, where no one is left behind? The slaughter. Please share, 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 share. Thank you.